to the new show, The $1 Million Mama. I am your host, Izzy Nally, and as I talk to a lot of people, I have been asked to share my story because a lot of times we are, as coaches and business owners, comparing ourselves to others, and we're often also making tons of excuses to not be present in our own business and honestly in our own life. So I run Izzy Nally Consulting. I also have two corporate jobs or contracts where I'm the director of digital marketing, and then another one where I am the organizational change management delivery lead, aside from having my own business. And then not only that, but I'm also pregnant. I'm due actually in 30 days or less. I am married, which I would say that I have a very lovely marriage, and that's a whole, how we met story for another time. I also have two children with special needs, which is again so many stories that will make your jaw drop. So, how do I manage it all? Well, I'm going to start with just the flat truth is one, it doesn't look as calm as I make it look. I tend to manage chaos really, really well, and that's been a slow build up. So, that second truth is none of this happened overnight. Now, I personally, I am a Capricorn. So, I am, and let me know if you're like this too. I am a to-do list junkie. I have such a mission for success. But just because that is so, that hasn't always been the case for me. So my life really started changing and shifting and up leveling. Up leveling is one of my words that I really like. It really started up leveling about 4 years ago, but I would say that journey started about 6 years ago. And I made a big decision in 2020 or in 2020 during the pandemic. I finally had just hit that wall, and let me know if you've hit that wall before where you're just so burnt out and tired of that same repetitive cycle where it's just you try and you fail and you try and you fail. And I had to really take a good look at the system of my system and grab a drink. So it's Saturday morning, which is why I'm in my robe. It's very, very quiet here. So I'm going to tell you about how I had to take a look at my system. But first of all, let's just talk. Let's have some talk. So it's Saturday morning and it's really quiet. Why is it so quiet if I have a husband and two children? Well, let me just tell you. Again, I mentioned I have children with special needs. When I say special needs, I want to say this for all mamas out there. Special needs does not mean that they are handicapped in some way. Special needs can mean that they also have mental disorders. So I have two children. One is 13 and she's on the autism spectrum. She's very high functioning, but she doesn't have that emotional awareness. She has a really hard time reading people, and she has a hard time, we'll say, being polite and having manners, which can sound like a normal 13-year-old. However, this one has been severely beating up her little brother since he was very little, and she can't understand what she's doing to him and what she has done to him. My son is 9 and is very strong. That is important. Um, he's very, very sweet, but on the opposite end, which we're in the process of potentially getting him diagnosed with bipolar, seeing if that's what it is, which it really feels like. Um, he then, like 2 weeks ago, punched through the glass back door. So when I say like chaos, you all have no idea the amount of chaos. So yesterday, police were called. He was flipping furniture, biting, kicking, hitting, destroying the house, trying to hurt us. So he had to go with his dad. Um, which, if you're in this area, we also had a blizzard last night. So then he went with his dad, but we had his sister got jealous, so we had to drive her to his house too, so she didn't miss out on anything. And we got caught in this blizzard, and it took us 2 hours to make a 20-minute drive, and we're like sliding all over black ice. And I'm sitting there like, again, 9 months pregnant, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not gonna die, I'm not gonna die. So just just pure chaos. We come home last night, and of course, we're both trying to just love each other, me and my husband, and um, decompress as much as possible from this just chaotic Friday evening that we had. Again, it's Saturday morning. And so tons and tons of stories. I have so many stories. So my mom is bipolar, which is why recognizing it with my son, my bio mom. So I have two moms. My stepmom has been in my life since a very, very young age. So whenever I refer to my parents, I'm typically referring to my dad and my stepmom, and then I'll refer to my mom separately. Which I live right next door to my parents, so my dad comes over and helps quite a bit when my little guy is having his, we call them tantrums or fits, but again, that's just because we're like sugarcoating it for the rest of the world who doesn't understand. Um, so anywho, it's really easy to find plenty of excuses, and I have plenty of them, and I've had plenty of them, and I still have plenty of them. And it's really easy for us to just use, I could just use that as an excuse and just say, I'm tired and I don't want to deal with it. And I just want to be depressed, and I want to live in this space where I can decompress and just focus on all of that negative. Or I can choose to focus on the positive, and I can choose to pursue my dreams. And I used to, big difference. I used to use my business and my work as an escape and a distraction to get away from the stress of my world. So about 6 years ago now, yeah, about 6 years ago, I left my ex, which was really huge because we were together for like 10 years. It was miserable. I'm sure some of you all can relate. Narcissistic man who can't hold a memory for more than a day. So we would have the same conversations over and over. And I was constantly put down. I was constantly made to feel like I wasn't good enough, that I could never do anything good enough. I was made to feel guilty for pursuing school and certifications and all of that. And when I left, I was told that I wasn't owed anything because all I did was stay home with the children. Um, and when I left, I all I had was my yoga business, and that was my only income. And then I moved in with my mother, who's bipolar. Whole nother story. Won't go into all of that. Um, it was extremely trying. I mean, like the hardest thing in my life to do. Um, because I was literally doing it by myself. Literally, yes. And I know I had a place to live, but I mean, everyone was out to get me. And I'm not saying that because that's how I felt. Like, it literally was that way. I was very much being verbally attacked all the time. Um, but I chose to hang on to the positive because I knew I was making that choice out of love and not fear. And I knew that I was on a path to better, and I just had to get through the trenches to get to the other side. And I just had so much faith that I was going to do it. And I did have a lot of distractions, and I did create a lot of distractions for myself. So I know I didn't handle it the best way possible, but I did the best I could in that time. And that's what I really urge moms to say. Recognize that you're doing your best in the time. And if you don't feel like you're doing your best in that moment, then that's where that self care journey really comes about. But I had to take a really good look at my life in 2020 and realize my patterns, because it's really, really easy to get caught up in blame and shame and guilt. And when we do that, we lack consistency. We lack a mission. We lack motivation. And we have this roller coaster ride. And I was tired of the roller coaster ride. I was exhausted. And I just was done. I wasn't going to have it anymore. Uh, I did take a step that 2019, that year before, and I was in another unhealthy relationship at the moment. Um, and it was a very manipulative relationship. Again, narcissistic, but um, in a slightly different way. Whole other conversation. But I had decided to make a jump, and I went for applying for my MBA for business school. And while I'm in business school, like, I kept wanting to put everything I had back into my yoga business, and I was really splitting myself in a lot of different places. But the whole reason I had joined was because I was so tired of having to rely on other people. And I had to take a really good hard look at myself and realize that, like, I was scared of success. And that was really eye opening. I had to, and I really realized that I was scared of success. I was scared to let all of that be on me. But at the same time, it was so ironic because that's all I wanted. Like, I wanted to pay for my own things, I wanted to buy my own stuff, I wanted the success so much. But I was terrified of it at the same time. And that was a very, like, deep conversation with myself, which was through meditation. It was through meditation for sure, and through a lot of my own work and my own journeys, and realizing that that voice in my head kept saying what I wanted, yet my actions wasn't lining up with that. So I really had to take a deep look at that. But in 2022 or 2020, it is now 2022. In 2020, I recognized that I was really powerful, and that I had manifested a lot of things that I did want over my life. That whenever I did set my mind and my heart in motion, that I really was able to accomplish extremely difficult things under extreme circumstances. But I also realized, like, I was somehow manifesting, and manifesting just means, like, it's what's showing up for us. I was also manifesting all of this craziness around me. And I mean, I was at home by myself because I had left my ex, and I was doing it on my own at that point, but a very um, paycheck by paycheck, um, in a kind of scary way, and I was still kind of relying on people a little bit, and that's where I realized that I needed to go all in. I needed to really claim this life that I wanted. I had to claim it. I had to say, that is what I want, and that is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to overcome this fear. I'm going to overcome these procrastinations, and I'm going to overcome this tiredness and these things that kept showing up that were blocking me. And I was going to push past them, and I was going to win over them. And I was just tired of it. Tired of it. And I made that decision. And my contract was ending with one job that I had gotten through the MBA program, and I was determined that I was done making 20 to 30,000 a year. I was busting my butt all the time, and I was so tired of only making 20 to 30,000. So, I started applying to some big jobs. And I was like, yeah, I've got my MBA, I've got all this experience, like I know I can do this. And I was like, and I am not going to settle for any less. Let me tell you, that was a fun decision. You make the decision and then you have to write it back out. But I had already gone through this storm that I just mentioned before. So when I get to this moment, I had a little bit of money from like tax return and stuff like that I was like, I can make it through. I can make it through. And I was thinking maybe like it would take me like a month. And I started, I was like, okay, I'm going to get my business up and going. I'm going to do my own work. I'm going to do my own consulting. And I'm going to wait for this amazing salary job that's going to come. And I applied and I knew what job I wanted. And in the meantime, I was also like writing this course on abundance and manifestation. So it was really making me like really have to dive into my own space of that. And it got to around like 3 months and I still wasn't making any money, but I was still having a ton of this like junk just coming up for me. And in the meantime, I had re-met my husband now, um, which is, again, a very beautiful, amazing manifestation story. Um, and in that, like, I mean, it was down to the bare minimum, and I just sat down and I did a prayer and I really checked in with myself. And the very next day, not even joking, the very next day, this phone call came. And I went from making 30,000 a year max to suddenly making 100,000 a year. And I was like, okay, I did it. And then I became the breadwinner of the family. And before I know it, I was buying a house and getting married and having a baby. And in the midst of all of being pregnant, like extremely exhausted in this position at work. And I'm like, I'm not happy with this. Like, I need to be doing my own thing too. And I, through a course and through some time, to make a long story short, although it's already been a long story, but there's so many stories. There's so many stories. I made a decision to go all in. And I made a decision that I loved making that money and that I was worth it and that I knew so much more than what I was even being allowed to do um, as a consultant for a big firm. Um, and and I decided to just go all in and stop doubting myself. And through that process, of managing my time with this and managing my time with that, I've developed a lot of time management skills. I developed a lot of logging things and really documenting things like we would do at a larger company to keep track and all of that. And I started transferring that over into my business and into my life and prioritizing. And of course, throughout these episodes, I'm going to share so much more about this stuff, but this is the first one. So I really wanted to set you with a tone and set you with kind of this backstory that I decided to go all in and launch this business and, well, relaunch, but launch in a way that feels good. Launch in the way that my dreams really say to do it and to not make the excuses and not let the excuses win because I know it's so easy to just be like, I'm just tired or to say, well, the job that's that's making this much money, or this job's making that much money, and to just make excuses. So I've managed my time and my priorities. I've set that time management and priorities. And I've said, that I will dedicate at least 10 hours a week in my business, at least. But really, I do about 20 hours a week in my business. I have 40 hours a week for my director position. I have 20 hours a week for the change management position. So, that's 80 hours a week of working. But I do it in a way that time feels different. And I block my time for my children. And I have like my specific time for my husband. And we have amazing communication skills, and we support each other, and we love each other, and he is all in supporting me in this way as I am all in supporting him in whatever way he needs. And we put the shit aside, and we just say, like, this is our life. Like, what are our dreams? What are our dreams? And we need to chase them, and we need to chase them together. And we have even this little thing that we do, like if we start talking about something that's really stressful and we start spiraling, that we just put our hand on our nose, um, because we don't want the negative to consume us. It's too easy. And that we really want to push each other for growth, and have those difficult conversations when we know excuses are coming up for each other. And by being all in together, we really have created this beautiful, beautiful relationship that I'm gonna try not to cry, that I am so incredibly thankful for, that I didn't even know could exist, because I had never seen anything like that before. And I had to sit down and do that deep work and allow myself to believe that something like that was possible, to begin thinking the opposite of of what I didn't want. Like, we get so caught up thinking about what we don't want that we forget to sit down and decide and choose and live intentionally in what we do want. And all of this is so much not only mindset, but it is heart set. And once you are all in, you become unstoppable. You find a way. And so we have to stop putting so much energy into the blame and the shame and the negativity. And we have to say, like, life is worth living. That I am not going to just get caught up in this humdrum. And sure, half the day I feel like, not even half the day, most of my life is lived through this virtual screen. Um, but we're also in a pandemic. And so I'm giving myself that grace. And I'm also pregnant. But to make sure that we really are making connection with people, and that we really are impacting people. And yeah, so I'm here. I'm here, and the people in this group are here, and let's all really be here together. Like, let's all really do this. Let's get out of our own ways. Let's really make this, a mission driven model for making millions, because making millions can be easy, and it doesn't have to be yuck, and it doesn't have to be this far-fetched thing. It doesn't have to be. And really, like, I'm not consumed with the money. What I'm consumed with is being able to intentionally live my life and make choices, to be able to let go of the stress. That's what I'm consumed with. my consumption is just this tiredness, not only for myself and my family, but for you all too. Like, we have got to let this shit go and start living life. And I call this making millions, but and yes, that's a side effect. Like, the money's the side effect. But it's like, I want to be able to go on vacations. I want to be able to take a break when I need it. When I need it. I want to be able to pursue the dreams, and I want that for you too. So it's not about the money. The money is a side effect. This is about us living our dreams. This is about making our impact. This is about living a passion driven, intentional life. So, thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to sharing this journey with you more. Um, and again, we're 30 days or less to having a baby. So, uh, check in. I'm going to try to do this every day. Um, it's kind of like it's like my vlog, um, that I get to talk to you all, but hopefully to encourage you as well. And you might hear some pretty wild stories along the ride. Most of the time, people hear my stories and like, you need to write a book. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start. Um, and that's why I'm doing it in this group, because this message is still new for me to share with you all, because it's easy to hide and say, pretend like everything's peachy perfect. But I want to be real with you all. I don't want you to compare yourselves and think, oh, it looks so easy for her, um, because it wasn't always like that. It took a lot of work. Part of the reason I become a therapist was because I have so many. I don't like using the word crazy, but it's just so much chaos in my life. Not only for my own health, but for the health of learning how to deal with my children and learn how to deal with my mother. And you know, I had a lot with my ex and how I can support you all. And there's just so many reasons for that therapeutic side as well. Um, but I will tell you, a big journey, big journey, and to recognize it fast was being in my business. So much stuff was brought to light so much faster, and it needed to be dealt with very quickly. All right. Thanks for joining the Million Dollar Mama. This is all about how do I do it, and what's the real story? What's the real life? How do we really balance that? So I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks, on things that I do that help me out in balancing, the business world, the multiple business world, the family life, and really being healthy and feeling balanced inside as well. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye.